Cedric Shisumu watching live from Kakamega County. Let's talk about how we can make this country greater. Love the morning, hope you have an optimism you have this morning. Engineer Boniface Kidiga tuned out of Kakamega sub-county, Matete sub-county rather, water supply ready for work. Let's build this great nation called Kenya. Okay, engineer, let's do exactly that and get back into our newspaper review. In the Standard on page 10, you can find the story there. It's also, you had alluded to it, Honorable on the front page. Drama as Waititu trial starts in Senate. Senators vote to hear case against Kiambu Governor in full plenary after hours of heated debate. Now, Senate Majority Whip Kipchumba Murkomen lost bid for case to be heard by a small group. And yesterday, of course, we saw a bit of the drama as far as this was concerned. And some people are saying that we knew this was going to come down this way when it gets to the Senate. We've seen what has happened there before, the allegations that have been put forward as to how matters, sensitive issues are carried out. We've had some allegations from the National Assembly as well. What happened there? The Speaker had to go to the scene of the crime, which was at the time a toilet, to see who was being given the 10,000 shillings, where was it being given, what was going on. So we've seen how these probes play out and such hearings play out. On this particular one, people feeling that once it gets there, this case will go nowhere. This governor would be impeached, even if there's all of these allegations of misuse of funds. And the people are watching, Ken, on this one. The people are very keen to see how this plays out at the Senate. I think
what was unfortunate yesterday, this is a matter, if we were sober as a country, this was a matter that should have been canvassed in a very bipartisan thing. But what happened yesterday is that if the setting to this impeachment is politically toxic, you could see the political divides, and not just across the country, but within a party that is failing to find its own footing, its own identity in the House. They agreed. These are guys who went sinning together. They have now come to expose each other. But what is happening is that our Constitution, and my Wakili will say this, gives recourse for everybody else. We saw the man called Wambora. Right. How many times did he have that tag of impeachment? I think it was the most impeached governor in this country. But there was still room within. Beyond this, where can Waititu find some leverage? Where can he find some point to hang on to? But let's cut out. Even as we do our things, we try and cleanse our own political system. How do we deal with the question that this is being done because this person is of this political side? Because people have taken sides. Why, for instance, are we not having other people coming through? While it's all right for the DPP to bring this and work through it, but there are also questions that say, bring all the matters on the table, let's deal with them. Right. So Waititu is saying, very good, it's going to be canvassed, people are going to listen to it. But I still go back to the same question I asked. When the chips are down, where do we stand as a Kenya? Will we stand with the fidelity to the law? Because that has been tested in the past. That even people we thought should not have been on the ballot in the last election, even when the laws were still very clear, some hand found them wrinkled out them out of a very tight situation. How do we go forward? And are we going to do that better? But Waititu, you've yet to see the last of it. Right. Maybe because Waititu is unfortunate that it comes from a very focused, a county that is very focused, and also got the political things. But it will play out. Because there's also an equally very difficult case in Samburu. But that is taken the backwaters. Why? Because there's no big man question there. Right. And the others that are also good, the other cases have been lost. But because Waititu, by the way, he had primed himself to be at a certain political alignment, he looks like the heat is more on him. Right. Because people like the others who have cases like Obado and other things, they're criminal cases. But they look like they're receding into this. But the fact that Waititu, being a political position he has taken, is going to take more interest because it will be read against all other cases that are of the political line that he has taken. Right. And this is going to be very interesting. And the setting was critical yesterday in the Senate. And you could see the divide.
And Dennis, because the Senate is usually characterized by sober discussions, as they say, as they sit there and discuss these particular issues. Yesterday seemed, as Ken alludes, you could see the lines that are being drawn right there on how this was going to go, from the very small issue, whether it's supposed to be in full plenary or, you know, for a special committee. Do we still hold them in that regard that once it gets there, there will be a sober discussion, non-partisan, and what needs to be done will be done at that House?
Jeff, this country and the leadership and the elected leaders, we have had a situation before where sobriety never worked, where if you were in Jubilee, whether a motion was not serving Kenyans, whatever it was saying, you support it. And that was the time that you support not the content of whatever report or bill, you are supporting a political party's position. So that Jubilee, a terrain of numbers, anything that came to Parliament passed. I see now when we have divided Jubilee, as it appears, we go in that direction. And some of these elected leaders are finding themselves. In fact, I was just looking at the sentiments as reported on the Standard by Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula, saying that the way the motion was being handled and the turbulence made the House look not good. And I think for me that is an indictment, that they are aware that they are not good at all at the moment, but they don't want this to play out the public for people to realize this. But Jeff, how do you expect people who are led by political affiliations to objectively look at an issue? Because then we have always seen this as historically, where members of parliament or senators, I mean members of parliament, whether it's Senate or National Assembly, will vote based on the interests. We have seen the reports, as you said, where the speaker has gone to the scene of crime because of major allegations of as little as 10,000 being given. That is the report we have. I do not think that this has ever been cleared, that this doesn't happen. So we as Kenyans know that sometimes, we don't just know how many times they do this. Decisions are made based on what interest you are serving. Decisions are made based on which political divide are you in, and that is not a good thing for the elected leaders.
Right.
In fact, if you look at the current constitutional dispensation, the entire leadership of the members of the National Assembly and Senate are supposed to check the presidency and the executive. Right. But that does not happen. You will still hear statements by elected leaders that we are in government. Which government? You are an elected from a majority party, but you have a role to check the executive. Right. That has never happened. They have never sunk into our elected leaders, many of them. When you listen to them, an elected leader from Jubilee will tell you they are in government, so they will support the president. Right. An elected person from NASA is more likely to oppose if it were not for the BBI coming in and the handshake to bring in. Not because the Uhuru Kenyatta or the executive has given a wrong proposal, but they are in opposition. So for them, they look at the divide between opposition and government. Right. For this particular case, chances are they will look at it from Tanga and Kelaweke. Right. And rather than looking at the content. I want to believe that Kiambu County Assembly has majority of them, majority of the members are from Jubilee. But these are the people who have impeached. I mean, the governor, who also is from Jubilee Party. So I would wish and pray that the content of the motion be looked at objectively, so that then the people of Kiambu are likely to get justice. If truly and indeed there is merit in all those issues, then it does not matter whether Waititu is pro-Tangatanga or pro-Kelaweke team. It should be on merit, and if there is no basis, it should be cleared and it should be allowed to continue serving his people.
Honorable Kioni, what we witnessed yesterday at the Senate was also a question that brought in when the President spoke about conflict of interest in terms of politicians who are in the House and are still in their professions, whether it be teachers or lawyers, as used in this particular example right there. And we saw one leader who was actually representing Governor Sonko, Senate Majority Whip Kipchumba Murkomen, who was very keen on having this heard by a small group. And the question came back again that if this had been a different governor, and if this had been Sonko's case, would you have perceived them to be acting impartially right there after having represented him in court, yet coming back to be arbiter again in the Senate for pushing for a certain hearing? do we need the AG to fast-track this conflict of interest bill once and for all to deal with this issue? You're both an MP, you're a lawyer as well. Where do you stand on that particular issue?
Senator Wetangula has captured it here. He says the Senate list being left with a rotten egg on the face, and I think this is what is going to happen with this impeachment process, both for Waititu and I think also the one for, even the one for Sonko may end up in the Senate if it happens. And a time comes in the life of all these institutions when you now want to see where does the institution stand. I know you have said that at the Senate there are sober debates and all those things, but I can also tell you, yes, debates are there, and one of the good things about the Senate is that if you want to speak, you have all the day to speak, because there are very few people who want to speak. Two, there is rarely a quorum, so there is nobody to tell you that to even interrupt you when you are speaking. And I can tell you, it is at the Senate that you can speak 4 or 5 times in a day, unlike in other national assemblies, because our Senate is unique in that format. And I invite the media to pay attention to what I've just said, so that we can then see where we are headed with that. And that feeds into this. One is that you cannot be in court defending a person accused of misuse of public funds, and the next day you are in the National Assembly, in the Senate, again being seen to prosecute the case on behalf of Kenyans. Conflict of interest without doubt, and Kenyans should not expect anything from that kind of a scenario, other than a biased outcome. But here is an issue that needs to be clear to us and the Kenyans. Unlike the Wabora case, Waititu was made to step aside. In fact, unlike the first term of governors, this second lot of governors, term of governors, have that unique scenario that if you are found, if you are taken to court because of alleged misuse of public funds, then you are told to step aside. So the impeachment of Waititu has only some political statement that will be made, but it will not make him go back to the office. It will not give him anything back other than that political statement that at least politically you may have been cleared. But in terms of just in case the Senate returns a positive result, which I think they are likely, given this push and pull, you are likely to see them saying the impeachment process was done wrongly or something. But then I think they will also need to ask themselves, and I know the Constitution allows them to do what they are doing. How does it look in the eyes of Kenyans when the courts have already said, step out, and it has been held? And I can tell you that the position in this country, it's going to be very, very difficult for any court to try and tell us anything else. And that is also the position that is being taken by the BBI. So this impeachment process by the Senate will not be, to me, will not be a statement so much on Waititu than it will be on the Senate itself.
Right.
How is it the Senate going to handle this issue? If they now come and say, Waititu was impeached wrongly, he should be back into the office. Because the question will be, if you have been told to step aside by the court, of course, the question is, are you being removed completely politically? How does it start with the issue of innocence before proven guilty? So the Senate is in a very difficult scenario. There's a case, and there is the issue of the public. The public will not understand the technicalities that we are talking about. It will just be saying, look at the Senate. They have behaved in a given manner. So it is actually the Senate on trial, not Waititu, in this case. And you'll be following it very keenly to see even how it plays out there.
I just wanted to add this, and like Mheshimiwa said, the Senate begins already on a very bad footing. First of all, they are casting aspersions on each other's integrity. And like, I wish they could take the counsel from Honorable Wetangula, that we need to step back, introspect, and say, how do we reframe this matter? Because as it is, nobody is going to listen to due process. It's about who takes down anybody. And I think it was unfortunate for Honorable Mwaura to begin to take that thing to a small silo called Kiambu. It was very unfortunate of him, and a person of his kind of exposure should have canvassed this issue bigger than Kiambu and trying to throw tantrums in the house. He acquainted himself, and many other people, they acquainted themselves very badly. For me, the Senate, like Mheshimiwa said, is on trial.
Right.
The way they conduct these things, but I don't think they should be afraid that there is another process that is going on. They should canvass the issues as they are, and then remain as they do the politics, as the court does its due process. There is a man here who still has his space to do these things. And it's a test case for us as a country. Do we take those processes? We've seen people going it. Because for me, it will be how much do we move away from the isms?
Right.
Our man, this one is being prosecuted. But those things are still there. Because this is where the Senate and everybody else and the courts have to let. And it goes back to that same thing, conflict of interest, and how much, what are the facts in the court on the case? Because we can easily say this man is guilty, but how has the case been put before the court?
Okay, and of course, that's an issue we'll be following up as well, even as it plays out in the Senate. We shall see indeed how the Senate emerges from that particular public trial. But I want us to move back to a story that broke last week and being followed very keenly, that of Babu Owino, his gun and the gun license. Already, the blame game has begun. This is a story that you can get on page 5 of the People Daily. Police Firearms Board in blame game on MP's clearance to hold weapon. As it emerges, he had been denied certificate. The reason he had been denied this certificate was on the grounds of his lifestyle. And that's why that happened. However, the board chairman, Charles Mukindia, said that, and this is a quote, "That one I don't know, talk to the police. Those are the people charged with that particular responsibility." Even before we get into this particular debate, let me start with Honorable Kioni right here. Is it that dangerous being an MP in this country? Because we've seen them, they have their firearms, they have their own security that have firearms as well. I would even ask if you have one. We won't go down that far.
I won't tell you.
But is it, why the need for so many MPs and politicians to have firearms as well?
Without doubt, the things that, when you go looking for votes from the public, you have very good friends loyal to you and some very, very unhappy individuals that you defeated in the other camp. So there exists, at any given time, there exists some form of danger which you have to be aware of, awake to, and but which you don't need to overplay. You do not need to overplay it. It becomes worse when you overplay it. How you behave once elected, if you again don't reach out, because every time you have won, you are the one to reach out. Right. Like Uhuru did, he reached out to Raila. But if you continue just chocolate, you may irritate many people. But without doubt, there is the life of a member of parliament, a member of the Senate, even governors, is not normal, it's not kawaida when you are in office and when you are not in office. Because you are occupying an office that has a lot of interest because of perhaps the perceived benefits that would go in terms of not even personal benefits, but even in terms of that office itself. You are able to influence the direction of things in the country, the positive side. So
are the stakes usually that high? As
I think it is one of the issues that is also being addressed by BBI. As opposed to anything else, can we just make it a service office so that we stop having the stakes so high that people have to move around? It's like you have been recruited into a very dangerous group that must be guarded with, I have seen people guarded with AK-47, and not one, 2, 3 of them. But it's also, there is also quite a bit of how do you take it yourself, and as you said, I really don't want to talk about myself, but the young man, we must sympathize with his case. And you will excuse me if I go back to the BBI. There's something that has happened. If this was happening 3 years ago, we would be seeing very many people, including, I believe, the leader of ODM, in court in support of his lieutenant. Today, you do these things, you are on your own. You are on your own. You have seen it with him, you saw it with Sonko, you saw it with Waititu. Even the supporters don't come your way. That is another of the major statements that has been made this time around. And again, for this country, because it calls upon me to be careful. I don't have people who are going to punch others when I've committed a crime. They will want me to behave well for them to be with me. And that is the standard that we are raising every other day, and I believe that is one of the things we need to take home from the BBI. But having said that, he is a member of parliament. I have had the opportunity to be in places with him, and I can tell you that outside the public eye, he's a very decent young man. He's very respectful. We had an opportunity of him, I had an opportunity to go to represent parliament with him in Hungary. And unlike what you'd expect, he was really, he was a perfect young man. And I was really happy to see that other side of Bob Owino. And I really feel for him to have gotten to where he is, and I can only wish him well.
Dennis, I'll come to you on this, because as we are seeing on page 5 of the People Daily, the blame games have begun right here. And it always comes after the fact, when we're asking, okay, how did he get his gun? And not only with this particular case, but several instances where we go back to the respective vetting agencies and we ask ourselves, how did this particular individual slip through the cracks and get the necessary go-ahead, whether it is for a political seat, to vie for a political seat, or in this particular case, own a firearm. And now you can see the fingers being pointed. No, ask the Firearms Licensing Board. No, ask the police. Yet here we are. It's an issue of somebody who discharged a firearm in a club. How do we vet the vetting agency? How do we do that?
Jeff, there is a politician who has been saying, and I've seen it being mentioned in Time Without Number, that this is Africa and Africa is our business. I do not know what they normally mean by saying that, but I want to interpret that to mean that in Africa there's a way in which we have allowed ourselves to do things. And it's wrong, but we are so comfortable. Jeff, it's only in Africa that we have a government that does not obey orders completely. It's in Kenya that you disobey all the orders and it's okay. I see my brother here, Honorable Kioni, being beaten by police, and because I don't support him, his political position, it's okay with me. I celebrate it, and I tell the police, I think next time we get the budget, we're going to give you more tear gas so that you deal with the likes of Kioni. It's only in Kenya and Africa we do that. We do not appreciate that even the worst enemy being mistreated by the law is the wrong thing. When you see these institutions, all of them, in the case of Babu Owino, if this is what is happening, it tells you that the preferential treatment to people depending on how you are perceived to be financially stable. And that is why you'll find that initially Sonko could get away with a lot of things. Right. You've seen other politicians get away with a lot of things. I ask myself, why should I, when I'm looking for votes, I'm okay with everyone. I mean, it doesn't matter. I go to the Changa dens, I go to every other low place that I want to seek votes, where ordinarily it could be a very dangerous place for me to go. But I access those places. I sit the whole day with those people and I seek for votes. What has changed? Immediately it becomes sworn in. So there's a problem. There's a problem in our institutions. There's a problem because there's a profiling of people in the country, such that they are the class of people who are considered they can get favors. There are those others who are not considered to be meaningful, and you will get this, Jeff, and if you fall a bit, if you go to even police station sometimes, I walk into a police station to see an OCS, I'll be addressed because I look like I come from some place. If you walk in and you don't look very well dressed and we can't place you very well, you may not be able to pass the reception and see anybody. You'll be handled at that stage and you'll be dismissed. So I think what I feel should be done is that Kenyans should be able to take up responsibility and demand that some of these institutions do their whatever they're supposed to do. Bodies like Law Society of Kenya, which have a mandate under Section 4 of their Act to push and become the watchdog for the public, they do their mandate. Courts do their role, so that if all these support institutions check each other, then we'll be able to get there. And most importantly, we as Kenyans, We demand accountability. We use the set systems to ensure that things are done the way they're supposed to be done.
Right.
So that we don't get people into office who are already corrupted through a corrupt system. The only thing they know is how to corruptly give results.
Right.
So then you don't expect anything, because then if I was appointed to the board because I bribed my way there, then it's okay. If the likes of Babu Wino in this case comes in and applies for a license and the board does not want to give the license, I'm the boss, I'll just give the license and I get some small tip and that is it, which is quite unfortunate.
Okay. Of course, we'll be getting Ken's view right after this second break as far as this issue is concerned. But also we talk about the BBI rallies slated for this particular weekend. Turn of events, so it seemed as you look at the Daily Nation, Ruto headed for public clash with Raila on that. And on the Star, they say DP Ruto hatches scheme to hijack Raila's BBI rallies. This, of course, all due to the Saturday rally that's slated to happen in Mombasa. We talk about that as well as we take your views at K24 TV. You can also send us your WhatsApp messages. We'll look at that after the break.
The Daily Brief.
We are glad that you're able to join us.
We focus on the current affairs, matters, politics, and regional events as